It is roughly 1.2 million years ago in equatorial Africa, and one of your ancestors is losing the thick body hair that once worked like built-in shade. Useful for sweating, terrible for sun exposure. There is no roof, no sunscreen, and definitely no weather app politely warning that the ultraviolet index is extreme. Their bare skin now faces a daily biological problem that can affect survival, reproduction, and future children. So how did one human species eventually develop such a wide range of skin tones? First, skin color was never a sudden invention, and it was never a neat set of biological boxes. It is a continuous human trait shaped by melanin, ancestry, migration, diet, and especially ultraviolet radiation. Same species. Different environmental histories. Ancient writers noticed the differences, but explanation was another matter. In the 4th century BCE, the Aristotelian problems connected very dark Ethiopian skin with heat, the ancient equivalent of seeing one clue and immediately publishing the group chat theory. Then, in The Descent of Man in 1871, Charles Darwin leaned heavily towards sexual selection. Brilliant man. Wrong emphasis. Modern genetics shows that natural selection related to sunlight did much of the heavy lifting. Start in Africa, where the main problem was not getting enough sun. It was surviving a great deal of it. A 2004 study of variation in the MC1R gene estimated that strong selection favoring dark pigmentation was already operating in early members of the genus Homo by roughly 1.2 million years ago. That timing fits a major change in the human body. Less protective hair and more exposed, sweat-cooled skin. Melanin became biological armor. Dark, melanin-rich skin absorbs and scatters ultraviolet radiation, reducing damage in places where UV is intense throughout much of the year. One influential model also argues that pigmentation helped protect folate-related biology, important for normal cell division and reproduction. This was not nature choosing a cosmetic preference. It was nature adjusting a shield. Were our early African ancestors walking around with one perfectly identical skin tone? No, of course not. Africa contains enormous genetic diversity, and pigmentation has always varied. But under powerful tropical UV, darker pigmentation offered a strong advantage. Practical. Efficient. Much better than trying to carry a tree everywhere for shade. Then some human populations moved into regions where the sunlight problem reversed. Homo sapiens began major dispersals beyond Africa tens of thousands of years ago, entering northern environments with weaker and more seasonal UVB. Dark pigmentation still protected skin, but it could also reduce the skin's ability to produce vitamin D when sunlight was scarce. Over many generations, variants associated with lighter pigmentation became more common in several populations. But Europe did not become pale overnight. The genome of Braña 1, a hunter-gatherer buried about 7,000 years ago at Braña Arintero in northern Spain, carried ancestral variants at several pigmentation genes, indicating relatively dark skin. Cheddar Man, found in Gough's Cave in Somerset and dated to about 10,000 years ago, was also genetically predicted to have dark or dark-to-black pigmentation. Both discoveries wreck the cartoon idea that everyone entering Europe instantly changed color at the border. Later migrations and natural selection changed the picture. Early farmers arriving from Anatolia around 8,000 years ago carried the light-associated SLC24Phi, a 5 variant at high frequency, while variants in genes such as SLC45A, 2 increased more gradually. A 2024 analysis of ancient Eurasian genomes found that the light-associated SLC45A2 allele rose in frequency from around 13,000 years ago and approached a plateau roughly 2,000 years ago. In other words, the skin tones now stereotypically associated with Northern Europe are surprisingly recent. Now move east. Populations in East Asia also evolved lighter average pigmentation in lower Eve environments, but evolution did not simply copy Europe's genetic homework. A 2007 study in molecular biology and evolution found evidence for convergent evolution. Europeans and East Asians reached partly similar pigmentation outcomes through partly different genetic routes. European lightening strongly involved genes, including SLC24A5 and SLC45A2, while East Asian pigmentation has important associations with other variants, including variants near OCA2. A 2024 Nature Communications study measuring skin color in 48,433 East Asian participants found both shared and population-specific genetic influences interacting with sun exposure. The lesson is not that the world split into 3 color teams. It is that many populations adapted repeatedly, mixed through migration, and inherited different combinations of many genes. Similar sunlight problems sometimes produced similar results through different biological pathways. Here is the modern contrast. Humans spent hundreds of thousands of years evolving pigmentation responses to sunlight, but the sun protection factor rating was introduced only in 1962. Evolution had a very long research and development schedule. The cosmetics aisle arrived embarrassingly late. Zoom out, and human skin color becomes a map, not of human worth, intelligence, or separate species, but of movement under different skies. Darker pigmentation was generally favored where UV intense. Lighter pigmentation evolved multiple times where UV was weaker and vitamin D became harder to produce. Migration and intermarriage then kept remixing those adaptations, which is why real human variation refuses to fit clean labels. Every shade is part of the same survival story. Your skin carries traces of sunlight, geography, ancestors, and journeys made long before anyone invented borders or racial categories. The visible differences are real, but the divisions people built around them are cultural stories layered onto a shared human body. So the next time sunlight touches your skin, remember, you are watching millions of years of human migration responding to a star 93 million miles away.